So Coyote versus Acme might just be the best Looney Tunes movie ever made, which it's not exactly a high bar, but hey, it crossed it with flying colors. Delayed and nearly canceled, there's a poetic nature to how this movie's story reflects a troubled release, given that it's about a corporation silencing voices. But even without that unintentional association, the movie is genuinely entertaining for the same reasons as the previous Looney Tunes movie, which was also buried by Warner Brothers and rescued by Ketchup Entertainment, as this film has as well. While that previous movie embraced a throwback sci-fi B-movie style, this animation live-action hybrid uses the Looney Tune ingredients to craft a legal thriller, more fitting for the characters than an excuse to play genre dress-up. The story itself is simple to explain, but complex in its intricacies. The cartoon character Wile E. Coyote has grown weary of his never-ending chase with the Roadrunner that always ends in slapstick disaster. He soon realizes that the culprit behind his misfortune lies in the Acme Corporation that he keeps buying his gizmos from. And so the battered Coyote takes his case to court. Unfortunately, he's facing an uphill battle, more brutal than the hills in the desert with giant tumbling boulders. The only lawyer willing to represent cartoon characters for such accidents is Kevin Avery, played by Will Forte, a loser of an attorney who settles for very low offers. He doesn't want to go head-to-head with the more intimidating Acme lawyer of Buddy Crane, played by John Cena. But through the Coyote's mischievous, conniving nature, alongside Kevin's plucky protege niece of Paige, played by Lana Condor, it isn't long before the big trial is underway and a conspiracy is unearthed within Acme. The team behind this production, led by director Dave Green, fully grasped what made the Looney Tunes so hilarious was not just the slapstick, but the cleverness. Other cartoon studios of the Golden Age could always be relied upon for physical gags, but only the Termite Terrace Collective knew how to, they knew how to use witty zingers, knowing nods, and sly punchlines. The most amusing aspect of Coyote vs. Acme is how perfectly it fuses its wild antics of exploding dynamite and warped cartoon characters into a rather serious story of corporate corruption and dangerous courtroom cases. Avery and Coyote might be facing off against a business that makes people disappear, but it's a corporation that will do so with cartoon boulders and painted on holes in the ground. The Looney Tunes players are used more creatively in this plot, serving specific roles rather well. While Coyote and Roadrunner are more or less the same cat and mouse figures that they were in the cartoons with their many chases, other familiar characters take on more unique personas. This includes Foghorn Leghorn as Acme's pompous lead executive, Tweety Bird as a capitulating corporate agent, and Bugs Bunny as a deep-throat-style informant, hilariously staged as a mysterious figure that nobody can pin down based on his voice and catchphrase. There's faith in this presentation. The characters don't have to try too hard for jokes, evoking the same devotion to a serious script, kind of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This is a film where Luis Guzman doesn't try too hard for gags as the no-nonsense judge. He takes his job seriously and fits neatly in his scenes where he's expected to bang a cartoony gavel that makes a squeaky sound as he quiets the court. By committing to the legal thriller premise, it's easy to get lost in the story amid the hybrid of mediums. There are rarely distracting moments with the compositing of cartoon characters among humans that toy with cartoon objects. It makes the connection between the characters more engaging than just having all the humans stand aside while the cartoon chaos unfolds, in the background or the foreground. There's a great dynamic between Avery and Coyote as losers who grapple with their own ambitions that might derail an important court case in cartoon history. Part of what sells that drama is a fully realized world where Avery will cite how a previous cartoon case made the chasing of another character a recognized profession. It's especially impressive watching Avery, interact with Coyote, a character who doesn't speak and only uses, those little signs to communicate. And even with that barrier between them, you do feel something for their feud over how they handle corrupt lawyers and corporate assassins. This is far from the likes of Space Jam, where it felt like, the cartoons and the humans had to stay strictly in their own lanes. But here, everybody is an important player in a picture of dark secrets and cartoony conventions. With a thoughtful script by Sammy Birch, which was pretty impressive for coming off of a previously writing up May-December, this is a Looney Tunes movie that manages to stay true to the zippy nature of the characters, while also embracing a surprisingly serious and thematically fascinating story. At the heart of this tale is the rationalized cruelty of the status quo and throwing your own people under the bus when gripped by greedy forces. Okay, so it's a cartoony bus with a silly splat sound effect, but the point is no less resonant for how cases against abusive corporations are difficult to pose, let alone win. Coyote vs. Acme makes a compelling case for why the Looney Tunes are clever and charming enough to warrant more than just meta commentary and basketball games. Aside from a few in-jokes for cartoon geeks, like the law firm in the movie is called Avery, Jones, and Maltese, being a reference to classic Looney Tunes creatives, the film never feels like it's a prisoner to pop culture, where the anthropomorphic ensemble doesn't have to contort themselves to fit into different movies. They've had a century of various scenarios that have played well for their brand of comedy and charisma, still holding up in this latest and greatest iteration. To think that this movie was almost lost due to a tax issue makes the David and Goliath drama all the more exciting and meaningful. The movie might start with the gag of being based on a true story, but there's a truth present amid all the falling pianos and exploding cartoon rockets, proving to an audience who might be weary of the Looney Tunes after Space Jam: A New Legacy that that's truly not all, folks. That there's a lot you can do with the Looney Tunes, and I think in this case, they prove that they can fit neatly into a legal thriller, kind of similar to Who Framed Roger Rabbit by taking itself a little bit seriously, but still being clever and smart. So yeah, I loved the hell out of Coyote vs. Acme, and I would love to see even more Looney Tunes movies that tackle different types of genres. Like they proved it with the last Looney Tunes movie, and they've proven it once again, so we need a lot more movies like this. And I'm so glad that Coyote vs. Acme, overcame the odds and was able to be released so that the world can see what you can truly do with Looney Tunes when you open it up to doing more than just, commenting on whether or not they're relevant. So yeah, I love the hell out of Coyote vs. Acme.